And now with this recent policy amendment in 2024, the government of India has already mandated that railway needs to play a major role in this first mile connectivity, and that's why they have given an impetus of bringing in a strategic shift towards the railways in the first mile connectivity. So before going this, understand why railways are, because in India, roadways are the first for metal or mineral sector transportation, followed by railway. But there are some inherent challenges with the railways, as you can just see that, and I mean, it got enlisted, like as of now, only 65% of the overall raw material gets transferred, get transported by railway. And the rake availability as well as the route congestion has been a perennial challenge. The dedicated freight corridors is yet to see that raw material movement in a big way in terms of mining and metals. And also we see that there's a lack of last mile connectivity with the end user plant for the mining refineries, metal refineries, as well as the ports is again a challenge. But apart from this, railways is also grappling with other things like freight issues, like they want to, there's a continuous changes in the freights of the wagons as well as the routes that causes a problem. Then there's a zonal charges being, for using a surface infrastructure, the railway zonal charges the mine operator, that's again a challenge. Then there is a challenge in terms of also the difference in the standard and tier weight. Again, these are all perennial challenges. They have been mitigated in, in bits and parts, but not fully though. So the focus is now moving towards the other modes of transportation, that is being the objective of this session. So I'll just quickly talk about the roadways. As you already know that this is best applicable when you have a short distance to cover. The benefit is you need not need a big infrastructure in place. You just quickly go and deploy this tippers and trucks to transport coal. The problem is again the fuel cost, because with the surge in fuel cost, it becomes very uneconomical. Now the solutions are hydrogens, LNG trucks, electric vehicles, all those are coming up in this way. So road becomes still one of the preferred mode of transportation. Then I already spoke about the railways. Railways, as you know, for the longer distance transportation, you still will require railways. The government has already come up with the RSR kind of policy where you have rail, ship, rail kind of transportation for the coastal, plants. So railway will play a big role, and railways continue to play a big role. But there is again, it takes certain time, a certain gestation period to come up in terms of building infrastructure. Then again, just previous speaker spoke about the shipways, and this waterways will play a major role. Now it has to come because already Government of India has identified a number of inland waterways, and this shipping is the cheapest mode of transportation, by the way, in terms of rupees per ton per kilometer. Again, the belt conveyor. Now, belt conveyor here comes again for first mile as well as for the last mile as well as for the long-term connectivity. But again, it has an inherent challenge, like it has a high capex, and the cost of installation becomes relatively high. But it's a faster mode of transportation, and again, they feel that the operating cost becomes also increased with the passage of time without maintenance. Then lastly, we have pipe conveyor. Pipe conveyor again plays a very important role. So belt conveyor is now getting turned into a pipe conveyor. Pipe conveyors are relatively better in terms of negotiating the tough terrains as well as, but it again has a very high cost of installation, high capex, high power requirement. All these are again a challenge. Some of the plants which are just a pit head kind of at a distance, they use aerial ropeways to transport their raw material from mine to this. This will negotiate a high mountains or a terrain which are very relatively difficult. But this again has a problem because it's a cyclic in nature, and there is a tippling of the aerial ropeways happen every now and then. But still, it is still prevalent in Indian mining system in some places. Lastly, if you could see the slurry pipeline. Now, slurry pipeline again has, it has come up in a big way in terms of transportation of the raw material, but the problem is with the right of way. Obtaining a correct right of way in alignment with the, land equation is again a challenge. It has a very high capex, but relatively low operating cost, but water requirement is huge in this kind of installment. So now we come to the point that why modernization is required, because we all know that mining is a site-specific activity. You need to evacuate a coal or a mineral from your mine to that end user. Any investor who comes and acquire any mineral blocks, they just look for a due diligence in terms of coal evacuation, how efficient my evacuation infrastructure is. So without doing that, they won't be able to go for those kind of acquisition or asset. So there are inherent challenges, as you can see on the screen. They are all jumbled up, like in terms of there's a need of increase in throughput, there's a need of increase in enhancing safety, then you have to be environmental and regulatory compliant with this new CBAM norms as well as this net zero emissions. There has to be minimum spillage, and it has to be met all the scope 3 emissions in that entire process needs to be curtailed. So all those things can be done only with the help of a proper intervention of a technology. A proper technology comes in place, which will bind all those things, and it will trigger all your answer. It will help you answering all the questions. Like it will bring a seamless transition of transportation from a first mile to the last mile connectivity. And lastly, how this will be achieved. Now, this is something which is very important and already being spoken about, but again, a mutually exhaustive, I mean, a collectively exhaustive and mutually exclusive sector inputs is required. Like you required a proper regulatory support in the sense, you also required an IT intervention to help you. You at the, and finance being a perennial problem because these are the PPP kind of projects, it will require an asset monetization in place to help you sail through this. So that is important. And nobody talks about the continuous need for the R&D in this space, because R&D and continuous innovation is required in this space, because until unless, because any innovation in this sector happens in a quantum manner, not in a continuous manner. So that is something to be looked upon. There is a change management required. You have old people who have been running this system from the ages. They need to be trained. They need to be, adapt to the new technologies, how this seamless transportation can happen. All those things will bring and build up the momentum. My previous speakers has already been spoken about the how part, like how it will be done. Like there are new technologies in terms of building a better road safety in terms of driving dumpers, some in terms of, inland waterways, as well as in terms of railways. But this has to be addressed in terms of addressing all those things. Now, the final thing is, this is to be keep in mind that a true capacity of a mine is always in terms of like how much capacity you dispatch, not how much you produce. So this has to be kept in mind. Once you achieve this, your problem gets solved. With this, I want to end my presentation. Thank you. I hope I finished in time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sengupta, also because you really maintained the time. So I would now request our co-chairman, Jha Saab, to kindly give his inputs.
From the various speakers, we have heard about various modes of transportation like road, rail, inland water, even pipe conveyor, shiftable conveyor. Those are, of course, very useful, very important. But they are mostly for big players. On the other hand, we are allotting various coal blocks expected to produce some 150 to 200 million tons by 2026 to 2030. And their cost of development of the mine is, say, about 400, 500 crore. Whereas if you go for construction of a railway siding, which in some cases located 15, 20, 25 kilometers from the mine, and you are insisting that road transport should be minimized, eliminated, so cannot be expected that every player will construct a siding for 20 kilometers in terms of acquisition of land, including forest land, and the cost. It becomes prohibitive. Similarly, about railway, what CMPDI has presented their paper, they all talk about only Coal India. But if you want to produce, as I said, 1.5 billion ton more, so about 10% no one is taking care. And it will be beyond the capacity of the private player, each player, barring some big ticket holders. So some arrangement should be there. Maybe CMPDI takes up the additional work, or government finds out some agency. Without that, the private players will not succeed. And there are various issues. We are talking about coal transport, say wildlife management, that the wildlife strays from one block to another. So you cannot have only one block conservation measures. It has to be for the entire coal field. Then arrangement of forest compensatory land, that is not possible unless a lot of people join hands together. So this aspect also should be considered and to be included in the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jha Saab, for your very, very valuable comments. I think as is already, it was known that since we started well after the time was almost over, we will be late, but nevertheless, I think we are not that much late. And I would like to once again mention, because I have been in shipping all my life, I would like to once again mention that while it is extremely vital for the economy to have proper road infrastructure, proper rail infrastructure, but we have not paid any attention to the water transport since independence. Hundreds of thousands of crores have been invested into the railways and road infrastructure. Whereas till the time the present government is definitely laying some emphasis, but till the time this government took over since independence, we have not spent possibly even 10,000 crores into IWT or coastal shipping. So, and as I mentioned, it is by far the cheapest mode of transport for long haulage. Of course, it's very difficult to envisage that there will be a lot of, mines or a lot of consuming points exactly on the riverfront or exactly on the seafront. So the last mile connectivity will be required to be done mostly by road and maybe to some extent by rail, having railway siding. Of course, as Jha Sahab has said, it cannot be again envisaged that small, mining operators, they will be individually be having their railway siding either. So last mile connectivity, possibly a road will be important. And as has been explained by Mr. Maiti, even for road transportation, we can make it far, far more, environmentally friendly by various measures which have been mentioned by him. There are so many initiatives being taken by IWT. I mean, every time I listen to a presentation by any of the officials of IWT, I really appreciate so many measures being taken. I think once they are all put in place, definitely the volume being transported by IWT will substantially go up, and that will be good for not only for economics but also very much for the environment. I'm keeping on talking of environment. I'm sure everyone talks of that because that is in the uppermost of the minds of any rational human being today, because we are facing this tremendous problem of climate change. And as we keep saying, our mother planet Earth doesn't belong to one generation. So unless we take proper measures, the posterity will never pardon us. So that is very essential. And of course, Mr. Sengupta has given an overall, picture, a very good presentation on modernization of all the different other modes of transport other than railways. So I think we have come to the end of the session. I would request Mr. Upadhyaya to take over.
Thank you, sir. Time for honoring the speakers with mementos. So, sir, Chairman, sir, kindly present the memento to Mr. Maiti.
Thank you. Very good presentation. Sorry, cut short.
To Mr. Anil Kumar. To Mr. Sen Gupta. And the co-chairman, Mr. Jha. Thank you. Jha sahab, can I request you to